this is Dr. Estie Hess.
And I am Dr. Ann Kirsch, and it's so nice to meet both of you. Really
Nice
nice.
to meet you
Thank you
as
for
well.
having us. It's great to be
And
here.
we're on our podcast episode now for On and Off the Spectrum. And it's a special treat. We are with the Nambiars here, and Priya and Sanjay. And just as a reminder to our guests from a couple weeks back, we interviewed your wonderful daughter, who has written this great book, The Sun and Me, right? We've been trying to publicize that everywhere.
Right.
A great, great story about her experience, hers and her twins' experience, impacted by sunflower syndrome, and what she experienced as a young child through the point where today, thank God, both she and her twin are very, very operational, and they are in both university students, and wonderful news. And this book is terrific. But we thought we should really talk to the two of you because you also had a journey through this. And this podcast is about family. It's about families who are faced with sudden medical or psychiatric crises, whether it's a diagnosis of themselves, someone else that they love in their family, their child, and then how do you manage? And so we thought that you would share a little bit from your perspective, from the parent perspective, what that was like. First off, discovering that this was going on for not one, but both of your daughters, and the journey that you were on to eventually create a recovery
Yeah.
source for them.
So take us from the beginning to, we have a half hour, but take us to the beginning of when you started to notice things and what did you do? What did you think?
Do you want me to start?
Sure.
Okay. Well, we have identical twin daughters, as Dr. Hess said, and they have gorgeous long eyelashes. And one of them got glasses when she was 2.5, when we were in preschool. And she started blinking a lot. And I thought it was because her eyelashes were hitting her glasses. And so I just thought it was because she had these gorgeous eyelashes. And our teacher actually said to me, we're noticing some things that you might want to see a neurologist for. Because after that blinking incidents happened, she started to make a motion with her hands, almost like creating a strobe light with her left hand. And we noticed that it started happening in the sun. And so when our preschool teacher said, "Why don't you go see a neurologist?" we were actually pretty shocked. We were like, "A neurologist? Why?" And so then we actually did go see a neurologist. And the first, would you want to go from there?
It was pretty much unknown. We had neurologists, everyone had different opinions on this. And this was back in 2009. And so we didn't really know what was going on. And we kept treating it. We were trying to treat it with different types of modalities. We end up talking to physicians, alternative types of providers, osteopaths, Ayurvedic solutions. We couldn't figure out what was going on. And then a year later, her twin, Uma, who actually wrote the book, she started. So this is around 2009, 2010, when they're about 3 years old. Now they're both waving their hands. And it was extraordinarily difficult because we didn't know what was going on, but they weren't functional in the sun. So it turns out they have, and we found out a few years later, but they had is a rare form of photosensitive epilepsy called sunflower syndrome, where every time they move their hands like this, it basically creates seizure activity. So it's not a conventional grand mal or petit mal seizure, but from an EEG, they're having a seizure in their brain. But they're doing, and plus
The
it's
hand was a
self-stimulating.
seizure. That
Well,
was
the hand would
evidence.
trigger a seizure because it'd almost make
Would
like a strobe
trigger.
light in front of their eyes with the sun. So
And
at
why were
nighttime, they were
they,
okay.
so why were they moving their hands? What were you
It was
told?
We don't,
self-stimulating.
yeah.
So
Oh,
there's
I
something
see.
about this seizure that was either compulsive, compelling, or that felt good. It was pleasurable for some reason. And when
Oh,
you're working with a 5 or 6 year old, or even when they were 7, 8, and 9, it's really hard to stop that behavior, right?
yes.
CBT did not work. And then coming back to the podcast and Dr. S, it was extremely difficult for us because we didn't know what was going on. I was researching it. At one point, to be honest, I probably knew more about sunflower syndrome than any doctor on the planet. I was talking to physicians in Italy, in Australia, in New York, in San Francisco, all throughout LA. We were researching everything. There was no information on it.
So
Um,
we started just to reach out to, as Sanjay said, all different types of modalities. And we found Dr. Hess actually. Dr. Hess, you were instrumental in actually
Yes.
helping us get through this. Now, you weren't doing the medication piece, and we tried all this medication piece. You were instrumental in getting us emotionally through this. And
Mm.
so, you know, I remember you said to me, Priya, you need to find some parents that are also have kids who are going through stuff as well, because they're the only ones that are really going to understand truly what you're going through. So you were so helpful in terms of helping us understand our children. You were also helping, really instrumental in helping us learn how to parent in an environment where we didn't know what was going on, right? So we didn't know the medical piece. We were going to doctor after doctor, but what we could do was control what was happening at home. And that actually helped create some sort of safety, strong parenting for the girls, strong communications with each other. Because when you don't know what's going on, it's very confusing. So it was a really confusing time in our life that you actually really got us through,
I
to be
mean, to be
honest.
honest, we did couples therapy with Dr. Hess as well, because on a
We sure
marriage,
needed that.
it is
Really
very
needed that.
hard, especially because we didn't know what was going on. We had different approaches at that point. It's extraordinarily stressful. And we are so lucky with some grace, we were able to get through that. We found a medication that worked for the girls when they were 10 years old. They're
Numbed it to
18
10.
now.
Yeah.
So we had 8 years where we basically couldn't do anything in the sun. We were looking at getting guide dogs and homeschooling because going to a traditional school didn't make sense. They couldn't do anything in the sun, right? And they're having hundreds of seizures technically every single day. So at 10, we found miraculously, we found medication that worked. And since then, they've been able to go to normal middle schools and high schools. They're both at universities now. And so we're so proud of them. Dr. Hess was instrumental in that journey.
Yeah.
We didn't even think we'd be here at one point.
Mhm.
But still, I mean, in terms of family and in terms of support, it was extraordinarily
Yeah.
difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I appreciate and thank you for the kind words. For yourselves, what did you think was going on? I mean, because I think there's a lot that parents first have to get through, like a denial piece, right? Because as you said, the school teachers are saying to you, let's go see a neurologist, and you have these two beautiful perfect kids until the teacher says something. How do you make it okay for yourselves to go to the next step, to go beyond the denial, to actually start the journey, which will be eventually, in this case, thank God, towards healing, but to get yourselves moving.
And I'll start with this a little bit. I almost for me, I divide it into two categories. One is kind of the triage category, where it's urgent. It's about the girl's health. We have to do whatever we can, right? And so, just doing as much research, talking to as many physicians, trying to figure out what's going on, and looking for a solution. So that was kind of like the more logistical side of it, and I was able to really focus on that. But for me, which was almost debilitating, was the emotional, psychological side. When you
Yes.
realize we had these ideals of parenthood, these what we anticipated parenthood would look like. And then when you look around your peers, they're having a different version of parenthood than we were having. And being able to reconcile that, coming to terms with it, resolving that took a lot of time. It took a lot of therapy. It took a lot of introspection.
You said something really important. You
Sorry,
mentioned in
dog.
terms of,
Sorry.
no
Sorry, your
problem.
dog is trying to get onto the Zoom as
Oh,
well.
I always love pets to coo. They're the raw shock of really
Yeah,
what's going on in the house. Here we go.
Ziggy has a lot to contribute.
Oh, no
Um,
question, no question. The piece that's really important is you mentioned that I suggested you find parents who have similar kinds of struggles, or at least parents who have kids with issues. Did you find parents whose kids were more neurotypically developing? Were they empathic to you? Did they, disregard your experiences? And what about other family in terms of support or
Well,
not?
as you said, sort of I'm biased, but they're these beautiful little girls and they're identical twins and they, looked identical. And so when you saw us on the street, you couldn't see what was really happening, right? So our friends, our close friends with neurotypical kids, they spent more time with us. They would see the seizures. I remember one day we had to she was kind of convulsing near the pool and we had to drag her out and put her in a dark room because the sun was affecting her, and my friends would bring us food. And so when they actually saw things were going on, I think they started to realize that. But I remember you said something to me, Dr. Hess, that it's almost harder when you can't see the issue, right? Because they're expecting this behavior that a neurotypical child would have. And at home, that wasn't the case at all. And so there was really this disconnect there with like what you saw and what was going on with us.
Mhm.
And
What
that
was it like for you when you have twins? One of them developed these seizures a year earlier than the other. So when the second one, started exhibiting the same or similar symptoms, how was that for you?
I was pretty devastated.
I was there. I remember, I still remember vividly. They were a year into preschool. We already knew what was going on with Mia, and I showed up to pick them up from preschool, and I saw Uma
Mhm.
waving her hands. And at that
Ah,
moment, my heart just sunk because I knew immediately what was going on. It's
yes,
crestfallen. And it wasn't, I mean, so much of also you feel for them, right? You want them to have, again, adjusting anticipation, adjusting expectations. Because we thought, oh, this is their path. And then you realize their path is going to be different. But they themselves are probably, I mean, I don't know what they were thinking at that point, but that was their life and their journey. And they're okay with that because that's what they're dealing with. I had to deal with my own issues of, oh, I thought they're going to be on this path. They're on a different path. What does that mean?
Mhm.
Right?
exactly.
In retrospect, it was nice. Sorry to interrupt. In retrospect, it was nice that they both had it because then they both had a partner. They weren't alone in this world
Yes,
having
Yes.
this rare seizure disorder.
yes.
So, in retrospect, it was actually the best case scenario, but it was really difficult at that time.
Working with children as we both do, and I work a lot with children who have all kinds of differences, and to address what you were saying is that they don't think of themselves as being different when they're that little. They just are who they are. It's when they start seeing how their parents react to them or other
Yes.
Mhm.
people react to them, then they start having questions without really the words to ask the questions.
Mhm.
So when you started to get to that stage with your little ones, um, how old were they when they started asking you questions? Like, Mama, why do I do this? Or why does she do this? Or whatever it may be.
Well, we
Good
had a
question.
very open communication. This is our style to our home. It's kind of our ethos is a lot of communication. Sometimes over communicating. But with them, because it was constant, they were waving their hands in the sun all day long. So they knew something was going on. So we always told them. I mean, with medical terminology, we have to like basically filter that out because they were 5, 6, 7 years old. But we would let them know it's epilepsy. This is what it's called. This is what happens, and this is why we have to hold your hand when you cross the street. Because we didn't hold their hand, they would stop in the middle of the street and they'll do this and get hit by a car. So I mean, they didn't understand the vigilance that it took, nor should they understand that, but they knew medically something was going on because it was so prevalent, it was ubiquitous in their lives, except at night.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I mean, we talked about it all the time, and they knew that, and we had tons of doctor's appointments, right? EEGs, they're trying different medications. So they definitely knew something was going on, but I mean, when you're 7, 8, 9, they don't have the words or maybe the emotional maturity to articulate that, no fault of their own.
Have
But
you ever,
what,
I'm curious, I'm
oh,
sorry, go ahead.
sorry. What
Good.
was hard was that like to talk to them about it and to try to give them hope when we weren't seeing any light at the end of the tunnel. And so that there was this difficulty in trying to give them hope when we didn't necessarily feel it all the time.
This is such a difficult thing you're talking about. I've seen this with so many families, and to dig so deep within yourself, to almost go into another room. When mom said to me, I go into the bathroom and I look in the mirror and I tell myself, I'm the mom, I can do this, and then come out like with a different persona.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yes,
I get that. I can relate to that. Yeah.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Do you have video of the kids when they were doing the hand waving? Do they watch it now? And do they ever comment about that time in their lives? I mean, obviously the book is
Mm.
resurgence in terms of that memory. But have they, since the age of 10, they've been recovering. Do they ever speak about that time?
Not really. I mean, they wrote about it in their college essays.
Yeah.
Oh,
And that was very poignant to, have them go through that process and being able to reflect upon that and how it affected their journey in life when they applied to colleges. But
mm.
it's interesting, we never really talk about it.
They don't like watching those videos when they scroll through.
No,
They'll just scroll on by. Like they don't like seeing themselves
I
like
can
that.
imagine it's painful.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised to hear that. That's definitely been my experience with children when they thankfully get past a certain point and they are, quote, normal,
Mhm.
meaning that whatever is wrong can't be seen by others.
Right.
Mhm.
Um, they don't want to go backwards.
Right.
But then when they get older, you may be surprised. When they get older, then and they really know who they are. They really, they're just starting college. When they're in their 20s, when we all kind of realize that we're a human being in a whole different way, you might see, not necessarily, but you might see them talk about that. At least
Yeah.
that's been an experience that I've had parents be shocked that for the last 15 years, no one talked about it because they wouldn't have it.
Yeah.
So you never know.
Yeah.
And to be honest, it's hard for us to watch those videos.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, one, there's a sadness and there's a pain to it. But there's also, on the flip, I mean, there is grace and gratitude that they were able to find medication and that they're having, they're thriving now. But those videos are packed with a lot of emotion. So they can be intense for us. I mean, I haven't looked at that video probably in years. You don't need to. But when I do think about them, it's a lot.
And even their college essays were hard for me. They really re-brought up all of those.
Actually, I wanted
I
to ask you,
bet.
so you didn't obviously tell them how to write their essays. They're offering their essays to you. They're both writing about this subject. What was your reaction?
It was sort of the best thing that they could write about. It was the biggest thing in their life. So I think that there was an understanding that they were always going to write about that. And maybe we had planted the seed a couple of years ago. But when we finally saw that sort of finished product, it really hit me at my core. It brought up all of those feelings again.
Yeah.
And so an introspective time that last
It
fall.
really showed you that it was close to their heart all the time.
Yeah.
And that's what you saw in the essays.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Could you speak a little bit? I have a couple questions, but one was just so I think our listeners would want to know, what did it take in terms of reaching out to the medical community until you found, albeit 8 years later, what was the journey to find the right combination, the right doctors? I mean, did you just stumble into something and go, oh my gosh, Eureka, here we got it, or
It was exhausting. So we were working at UCLA, Dr. Sankar and Dr. Lekha Rao there, and they're literally some of the
We love them.
foremost experts in pediatric epilepsy on the planet. Like that team at UCLA is renowned. They're incredibly strong. But back then, now there's research. There's Dr. Thiel out of Mass Gen with Harvard who's studying sunflower syndrome. Back then, no one was studying it. So they were aware of it, but there's no literature, there's no research. They were the best in the world, and they're like, we don't really know what's going on here. So we had to like basically take the shotgun approach with medicines, and we had the worst side effects, like like fatal side effects. Another drug we had Keppra rage, where one of the daughters was like really ransacking the house. We had lamictal rash, which thank goodness I went to the ER with her. If it goes in a certain way, that's game over. She was okay. So I mean, we had the worst side effects. We had to try trial and error, trial and error, trial and error. So it was really insane going through that time. And then finally, Dr. Sankar's like, you have to try this one other medicine because the brains are misfiring constantly. This is not, I mean, they're going to have brain damage at some point. So we tried the medicine when they were 10, and literally within a week or two,
Yeah.
it cleared up. And I remember so vividly, we were here in Brentwood. We went to Burger Lounge. This was in January, February. We sat outside for lunch. And I looked at Priya, I had tears in my eyes. I'm like, this is the first time we're having lunch outside in 8 years.
Yeah, we sat outside
Because it was not possible.
because it was too
Wow.
We
bright.
hadn't had lunch outside in
What
8
did
years.
the girls say about that?
They kind of, I mean, they didn't really, they laughed. They're like,
they were
okay. I mean, they
kids. They
didn't,
were
Okay.
kids,
so I'm
yeah.
looking at Priya and we're looking at each other. I'm like, oh my God, we haven't done this in 8 years. And we were so grateful that we were able to do it.
Oh my goodness.
So
Wow.
I mean, it's been a
So what you're saying is don't give up. Lots of trial and error, sometimes really scary trial and error because some of the side effects of what you've had to try, but you didn't give up. And I know a little bit more of the backstory. You had extended family support. I think that's pretty critical.
Wow.
Yeah, we were very lucky. My brother's here, her brother and her parents are really involved in our lives in a beautiful way. We have a strong community of like college friends and people we've met in LA. So we had people with us. But it's to be honest, they're amazing and we're so grateful, but no one really understands. And we didn't have that community
You
of other
had each
people.
other And
We had
you
each other.
were really blessed to find Dr. Hess as a
Absolutely.
therapist
That was a game
because
changer.
she helped, we've known each other all for many, many,
Longer
many
than we
years.
would admit.
Yes. And so I know her work and we refer back and forth because we think alike. So I know that finding her was a turning point for you. And I don't know the story, but I know that fact.
But I think, and I appreciate, thank you for the good thoughts, but I think it is trying to create a community. If you're lucky enough, like yourselves, where you have extended family or friends and so forth, and a decent core in terms of your relationship.
Mm.
But if not, you got to build that core for yourselves so that you're not alone through this fight because it took thank God it took a long time with wonderful results, but sometimes it takes even longer. Sometimes the results aren't quite as miraculous. But
Right.
what I hear is you always were optimistic.
Most of the time.
Most of the
Mhm.
time.
Most of the time. Yeah.
To be honest, that's also a dynamic that's really interesting because there are personality differences, gender differences. So I would always kind of look at the optimism, the hopeful stuff, and Pri would be more of a realist. So sometimes we would butt heads because our approaches were different, right?
Yeah.
And that's part of this whole dynamic of why this is whole difficult on relationships on a family.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It was.
That makes sense.
It's so
Sure.
interesting. This has been a wonderful experience, and for me, it adds such a fuller perspective because I sent you your daughter's podcast the other day, and you can see from a kid's perspective, yeah, it was there, and now we're here, and all's good. It's a journey, but not nearly as fraught with details as I knew that you would share. And I think it's a wonderful message that we can provide to families who are going through tough times, who make this discovery. God bless the teachers who first notice and aren't afraid to mention something. I mean, then nobody is asking them to diagnose, but they're on the front lines to say, "Hey, pay attention to something that we're seeing." And of course, every parent is going to want to say it's not anything neurological; it's eyelashes, right?
Yeah.
But then to take the next step and to say, "Okay, we have to find the right people and to be able to do that." It continues to be a pleasure to see the growth of your family, and I'm so grateful for and this special kind of opportunity. I know this your daughter is an extraordinary. Both of your girls are extraordinary, but your writer is going to continue to write because I think she has several more stories to share. And I think, as Anne, you were saying, I think the stories are going to develop and change as they age and are,
Yeah.
and their history will come up to be an element of support for themselves. Is there any
Yes.
additional words of wisdom that you'd like to share with families who are either new to the whole experience of a diagnosis for their child or are on the journey?
Yeah.
My thing is like it's hard. It sucks. I mean, there's no getting around that. But there is there's a poignancy and a beauty to life where it's hard, but it continues to evolve.
Yeah.
And so over time, there will be good days and there will be tough days.
Yeah.
And depending on the condition or diagnosis, that'll continue to go. But it's not going to be always downhill. It's not going to always be at that pit. But it's just hard. And sometimes once we accept that and then allow those good days to happen, and then have the fortitude and the wherewithal to get through the tough days, it makes life a
Yes.
little bit more bearable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
for me, sometimes it was just one day at a time.
Yeah.
And then one day felt like too much. So I was like, great, 1 hour at a time. Like, okay, I'm going to take this 1 minute at a time. And when you
Exactly
break it
right.
up into smaller pieces,
Break it
you can
down.
get through each of those things. So keep
Exactly.
That's right.
yeah.
And also, I love this saying, and I use it a lot when I work and other things, but comparison is the thief of joy. And it's so easy to compare our journey, our kids to others. And when we do
Yes.
that, that's a
Yes.
no-win situation.
Yeah.
So when we stop comparing and just focus on our family, it's much easier.
And you found the joy. It's
Can I
so hard sometimes, but you found it and you kept finding it.
can I add one more piece because I have privy to information and I'm going to share something wonderful because I think this helps. Sanjay, you wrote a book yourself to the girls. You wrote a children's book about powerful twins. when your girls I think were going through the toughest of times. And I'm not suggesting that our parents have to become authors and illustrators and so forth, but I think the message of you can do it also was something that propels your children to success then and now, and I think also boosts the entire family forward.
Thank you.
Yes,
And also, I think it's really important to say thank you, one, for having us on the podcast, but also, Dr. Hesselman, you were so instrumental in us getting through this. So we are eternally grateful to you.
We would not be sitting here together without you. I'm
Yes.
certain of that.
All right. I appreciate again the good words. Thank you, though, for being with us and giving really a very full perspective of what you as a family have gone through. The book that your daughter has written, again, is The Sun and Me by Uma Nambiar. It is absolutely a treasure. And I thank you as her parents for equally your contributions and being a treasure for us at our podcast. This is On and Off the Spectrum. I'm Dr. Estie Hess.
And I'm Dr. Ann Kirsch, and it's a blessing having you with us today.
Please.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you both.
Thank you so much.
Please.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.